Hey guys, this is Dr. Eric Robbins from Los Angeles, and I'm here in my den with Robert Smith, the founder and developer of FasterEFT, and my Australian Labradoodle Lexi Lou. So we're here today to talk about pain, guys, because so in my specialty, I'm a urologist, and I see a lot of chronic pelvic pain referrals from all over the region, and the region I'm in Southern California. And literally, I get referred the worst of the worst patients. I mean, folks that have had chronic pain that nobody else can help, or people that have seen 5, 10, 15 other physicians and they can't figure out what's going on. That's the kind of patients that I'm seeing all day, every day. And so the first thing I wanted to say is that since I incorporated FasterEFT into my armamentarium, it's the main thing I use, it's just raised my skill level tremendously. So I want to talk a little bit about pain. I know there's a lot of people out there that have chronic pain. And hopefully what I'm saying, it's going to be scientifically based to a certain extent, but it's also out-of-the-box thinking to a certain extent. So here goes. So the first thing I always tell my patients when I see them, I say, if you got pain and you're coming to see a mind-body expert, it does not mean that the problem's on your head, that you're crazy, and you're full of it. Because so often people think, I've seen a mind-body guy, that's what it must mean. So, the types of things that I see, it's real physical pain. Robert, the first point I kind of want to get across to people is that, just because I'm seeing chronic pelvic pain, to me that's the same as pain from fibromyalgia. It's the same pain as his back pain. It's the same pain as his shoulder pain, neck pain, chronic migraines, the whole gamut. Reflex sympathetic dystrophy, chronic regional pain syndrome. It's all basically the same thing. Pain is pain.
Even phantom pain of a loss of a limb as well.
Even phantom pain, yeah. Now, phantom pain may be slightly different, but I know we're looking on the internet today, and one of your listeners or whatever commented about that. But basically, to me, pain is pain.
Right.
So this is the basic gist. With most types of pain, there's chronic tension and spasm of the muscles. It could be the smooth muscles, which are the muscles that function automatically. It's the muscles that make up the gut and the bladder and the uterus and the whole GI system. It's the muscle that's in the vascular smooth muscle. And then there's skeletal muscles, which are the muscles that we have conscious control over, your bicep, your jaw, your back muscles, all that type stuff. When there's chronic tension and spasm of the muscles, those muscles lock down, there's relatively less blood flow and less oxygen, and that causes a very severe physical pain. So again, when patients come to see us with pain, we're not telling them, gee, the pain's in your head, and if you ever look for an emotional basis, it means the pain's not real. The pain's very real. We know from studies with fibromyalgia folks, they've done muscle samples and biopsies, there's less oxygen in the muscles. Mm-hmm. So there's a real physiologic reason for the pain. The second thing that happens with almost all pain folks is that the muscles in a certain part of the body get hypersensitized. And, I see, for example, something I see a lot with my chronic pelvic pain is primarily women with interstitial cystitis. Now that's a condition where these women have a lot of urinary frequency and urgency. They may have to literally urinate every 10, 15 minutes. It feels like their bladder is going to explode. They can't not wait. It could just be searing pain. There's usually pain with intercourse. Sometimes the pain goes around to their back or their legs or up or down. So again, it's a very real pain. With interstitial cystitis, I tell these women it's as if the nerves are overactive and kind of hypersensitive and lying to them. If you've got to pee every 15 minutes, and we check you, and we know you're emptying your bladder every time you go, consciously your bladder's not full, but the message your brain's getting is that you have to go right now. Mm-hmm. That's such a big component of chronic pain is nerve hypersensitization. So I'll tell the patients again, the question's not whether you're having pain or not, because we know you are, and the question's not at one level, is it a real physical pain? Because it is. But the higher level question is, why are the muscles tense and tight to begin with? And why are the nerves hypersensitized? Mm-hmm. And that falls into the realm that we can address very efficiently with FasterEFT. So, for example, why would somebody's muscles be tense and tight? I always like to think, a lot of times traumas are held in the body. These things happen to us. We don't like the way they feel. If someone was molested at age 7, when they think about that memory, that's not very comfortable to feel about. So to keep from thinking about it, I think a lot of times we hold these memories inside in the smooth and skeletal muscles. Those muscles lock up and get tight, and that causes a real physical pain. The other thing that we know is that when someone's had past traumas, particularly as a kid, Robert, I like to think, the biggest part of our brain, a big part of our brain and our unconscious is just to try and protect us.
Definitely.
And a lot of times things will happen as kids, and that protective part of our brain says, I got to protect this guy. So, from this happening again, kind of a classic example I give is, if Johnny's in, second grade and he gets up to go give a talk and show and tell in front of the class and some of his buddies laugh at him and he doesn't feel very good, part of Johnny's brain is going to say, man, that didn't feel good. Maybe it's not safe to get up in front of people. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of times the childlike attributes of our brains tend to generalize things, and before long it's not only trying to protect Johnny from getting up and show and tell, but it kind of associates, man, maybe just like people in general aren't safe. And so come a few years down the road, Johnny gets up, just walks into anywhere where there's people, and at some level he feels uncomfortable. Now, what we know is the early childhood traumas, and by the way, guys, it can be definitely a severe trauma, molestation, rape, parent dying, something like that, a severe accident. But a lot of times for kids, I think the way the childlike mind works is there can be something that happens, and as an adult we look at that and totally understand it, but that kid, it seems really horrible and overwhelming from the child's perspective. A lot of times things happen to us as kids, and it puts us into this chronic fight or flight response. And again, our unconscious trying to protect us, and that fight or flight response persists for years and decades. And and what we know scientifically is that when you're in chronic fight or flight, your adrenal glands are constantly releasing excess amounts of stress hormones, and those sensitize the nerves, and it makes everything more sensitive.
I think it's also like with war memories. This child has experienced a world. Then they have to be on guard all the time.
Yes.
And just like you come from sexual abuse, physical abuse, rape, or war, then all of a sudden your whole neurology, your brain says, I got to be protected. And so it walks around with their gun in their hand trying to be safe, whether it's in the uterus or it's in whichever part of the body.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, or you never know when, your alcoholic dad's going to come home and abuse you or beat mom. Right. And you never know when the other shoe's going to drop. And literally, as a protective mechanism, these people are always, waiting for that other shoe to drop. I got to protect this guy. And at that point, it's interesting. At that point, it's like I'm exaggerating slightly. You can almost like drop a cotton ball on the person, and it hits their leg, and they'll develop a chronic pain syndrome in the leg, or someone will sprain their ankle that in 99.9% of people heals, but that person whose muscles are just tense and tight, waiting for the other shoe, and the nervous system so on edge, a relatively little trauma. So that's what I see in the office is a woman, who might have a UTI, as do most women over time that are sexually active. But in this one woman, it sets off a cascade of problems that leads to nerve hypersensitivity that ends up with something like interstitial cystitis. Again, is it a real physical disease? Yeah, of course it is.
Well, I think it also fits in the same model as someone sensitive to smells or sensitive to taste or sensitive to the world or radioactive waves, or all these super sensitivities are created from this model of the world, and they start focusing and they start creating all these different ailments and syndromes.
Well, definitely one thing I've learned from you is just how much our mind tends to associate things. And I think you were telling me a story earlier where, what was the story? You were just telling me a story. I mean, this person had some sort of problem or some back pain started, and I guess there was an accident. But you said what also was going on in your life around that same time?
There's a lady in France where I did the seminar in Strasbourg, where she had 45 years of pain. All right.
Back pain?
Back pain. Yeah. Back pain. And so she has asked me on break, she said, well, will this work with pain? I said, yeah. I said, well, how'd you hurt your back? She goes, well, I was holding a child and I fell and I hit my rear. I said, was anything else going on in your life? And then that's when she said, no one's ever asked me that. That's when my dad died. And so that was it. And so then later on, I pulled her up in the chair and I worked with her probably 45 minutes. And of course, she had severe back pain. She's tried every type of therapy, you name it, she tried it all. I asked the question, what else happened? And so in the chair in front of this group of 85 people, I addressed her pain, and pain went away. Now, the bizarre thing is this pain was a metaphoric expression of her relationship with her father. And because, of course, the father represented her whole life, which represents support, her whole back. And so I addressed the memory, and here's the bizarre thing, and it's on, I think parts of it's on YouTube, is that That night when she went home, she went to bed and she woke up in the middle of the night and she had peed on herself. And it reminded her when her father died too, she also peed on herself. And it was like a eureka, like, it's a release. And then, of course, the pain was gone. So the mind will take this and store this memory, this relationship in the parts of the body, just like sexual issues, fibromyalgia, sensitivities, all kinds of things, because it's the metaphoric mind creating a reality and making it real in the body. Just like if you have a memory that happened to you 12 years ago, you're not thinking about it now, then all of a sudden you think about it, and all of a sudden it becomes real in your body, because that's how our minds work, and that's how pain works.
Yeah. I definitely like what you said, too. I mean, if someone's in just an intense, negatively charged state, they're feeling bad a lot, and then they smell that perfume.
Right.
Our mind tends to associate, because our mind's trying to figure out at another level, why am I feeling so bad? And then you smell that unique perfume, and you might kind of become chemically sensitive to that. Or there's an accident, and someone's injured, and there's blood and glass strewn around, and then you get out of the car, and the other car's leaking gas, and all of a sudden you become chemically sensitive to gas. And I mean, I think those are real responses,
Definitely.
It's just the mind tends to associate that
Definitely.
way. Exactly. Now, so with these patients, what I like to do when I see them, is first of all, go back, I ask about any childhood traumas, because I think the big childhood traumas are what put us in a chronic fight or flight and sensitize those nerves. And we'll use FasterEFT to go back and clear up all the early childhood traumas. And I'm trying to shift people out of chronic fight or flight.
Let me ask you, too. You said you've been using FasterEFT, and it's only been a couple of years.
Yeah.
Recently, you posted a video or something where you said you worked with this lady and she was really easy, and you used FasterEFT, but before you used EFT, and it wasn't so fast.
Right.
What's the difference that makes the difference for you?
Right. Just FasterEFT has allowed me to really understand how the mind works at so much. What I say, what your teachings approximate a much higher level of truth. So I think if you understand a much higher, deeper level of truth, it allows you to go in and deal with more complex issues. It kind of makes the most difficult things simple, is how I describe it. There's just a lot of little distinctions. Like I said, I used EFT for 15 years. It's great, but my level of confidence in dealing with really complex things and the speed that I'm able to address them is just much, much faster.
But you don't have that long with a client. I mean, you're working
Right.
at a full-time job.
Right.
They come and you give you 15 to 45 minutes.
Right.
And so you have to use something that's really effective.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's almost akin. I've been watching mixed martial arts since the UFC came out. And, what really appealed to me is not necessarily the violence, but what really appealed to me, Robert, because I took a couple years of martial arts in high school. And everyone thought that they were the baddest dude and their style was the best. What I love about the UFC, they take two guys of differing styles of martial arts. They put them in the octagon and lock them in. There's very few rules. They say one guy in the heat of battle, one guy's walking out of there, and the other guy ain't. Basically, the other guy's going to get knocked out, tapped out, submit. So, in that setting, in that cauldron, so to speak, you really found out in the heat of battle what works and what doesn't. And I look at what I do kind of akin to that. I mean, these are really sick people coming in, and no one else has been able to help them in the standard medical realm. I'm typically not seeing people who were helped with allopathic medicine. I'm seeing the guys who were not helped. And I'll tell you, Robert, the other thing is, I know a lot of people talk about secondary gain issues, and I'll tell you, almost all of the patients I see with chronic pain, none of these guys like being on narcotics. I mean, everyone says, the person likes being on the morphine patch and the Percocet. In my experience, that's not true, man. Patients do not feel good on these medications. They have side effects. They just want their life back, and they don't know how to get it.
Right.
Now, the other little caveat is that, maybe unlike you or some of the FasterEFT practitioners who have a shingle on their door that says, I do this stuff, almost none of the patients refer to me know what I do. So I've got to get this patient in, review sometimes a very extensive medical record, labs, x-rays, go in and talk to the patient, build rapport, then very quickly get them to shift their understanding of just like what we're describing here. The pain's real. I'm not minimizing that. I think it's real physical pain. That's not the issue. It's just at a higher level of truth, what's causing those physiologic things that are causing the pain, get them to shift into the emotional stuff. But you're right, I sometimes have 15 minutes. I'll give you a perfect example. One of my partners saw this lady for urinary urgency and bladder pain, and in his working, he knows what I do, and in his discussions with her, he found out she was, put in an orphanage around age 5. This is in another country, and was sexually molested and raped. And I mean, there's rapes. No rape is good. There are rapes, and there are really bad, torturesome, horrible rapes.
Right.
And hers was that second one. And so he said, I think Robbins can help you. So she walked in. Unfortunately, she was booked into like a 15-minute appointment slot. As my nurse is bringing her down the hall to put in a room, this woman's got all this stuff coming up. She's bawling and crying to my nurse. I mean, I walked in the room. I had 15 minutes, a clinic full of patients. I was pissed off she wasn't booked into a more appropriate time slot. And she's there. And it's like, I mean, I had like 1 minute to bridge. I said, listen, these stresses contribute to your bad health. I know my partner told you a couple minutes about that, and let's just get to work. So take a deep breath, close your eyes, and feel it for the last time.
That's right.
And we just tapped, and her biggest event among many traumas was this rape. And I'm not too affected by stuff these days. It kind of affected me. I mean, it was a really bad one. And we knocked it out and flipped it by the end of the visit. And, so it works in the trenches, I mean, with hysterical patients who don't know much about me or what we do. And I saw, just another brief aside, I saw a woman recently. She's a recovery room nurse, and I'm a dog lover, and as are you. And she was in a dog park, and her little dog got attacked by these big dogs and severely mauled, and died the next day, in her arms. And she'd missed, I think, a week of work and had post-traumatic stress. This is a friend of mine. I don't really know if she knows what I do, but she came up to me. She was just telling me the story, and you could tell she was just in shock. And I had 5 minutes to work with her, and I just said we went behind the curtain of an empty bed space, and she had patients she had to take care of, and we had 5 minutes. And I'd say in 4 or 5 minutes we knocked it down, 70%.
Yeah.
It was a full-blown fresh trauma. So the stuff works in the trenches. That's why I like it.
Well, I think too also is, FasterEFT works from trance to trance. And we have what you call the quick tap, which we set them in there, we tell our unconscious mind, feel it again for the last time, address the emotions, and then we trying to reach that flip. And I think that's the big difference. It's direct unconscious communication.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's very, very effective.
Yeah. Well, that teaches you're asking some other distinctions between what you do and EFT. I mean, understanding that the only thing that's real is now.
Right.
You teach that. And so to feel bad about something in the past or something you're imagining and worrying about in the future, you're going into a trance, and it's just breaking those trances.
Yeah.
And I like the way that you talk about a good bad collapse, where at the very beginning of my sessions now, I find out some positive memories.
Right.
And I don't just gloss over that. I mean, I'll sit there for a minute or two, and most cases have the patient, really the client, think about what makes them happy, and tell me about that vacation. Tell me about how it was when they laid your kid on your chest for the first time.
Yeah.
And really let them feel it, not just go out and we use that, and throughout the case, you tap on the bad, think about the good. Go bad, good. That was such important learning for me, man. I remember when I first learned that you can have positive things, I mean, it kind of pissed me off. It's like, why the hell would you, like consciously try and think about something positive, I was really good at thinking about the negative. So we're teaching the patients, you can think about the bad, but you can also go in the good, and we're empowering them to just get their nervous system, instead of just being a one-way street, to be a two-way street.
Yeah. And the good thing about doing the sessions with FasterEFT, it's not all negative.
Right.
You can have fun. You can really create deep healing and leave smiling.
Yeah.
And that's what our goal is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We definitely have fun doing the sessions, man. I mean, I walk out of the sessions, I think as do you. I mean, I see you on these transformational weekends do really tough sessions for 2 days, 1.5, 2 days, and you come out very energized, as does Jonah. Jonah's gotten to the point he's really energized with these sessions now. So
yeah, it's powerful.
So, but I'd like to go back, if it's okay, and just talk about the pain. So we, knock out early childhood traumas. I think that's really what hypersensitizes the nervous system and puts people in a chronic fight or flight. I asked if there was a more recent trauma that happened right before their pain started. That's kind of akin to that question you asked that woman, and she said, my dad died right around the same time. And people will have those associations. The other thing, I think that pain can kind of be looked at as three parts. There's the actual real physical pain. There's how people think about the pain and how they feel about the pain. And so often, I can have someone in the office who may be having a good day. Or I'll give you a perfect example, and I tell the patients this. Sometimes you'll wake up and it's not a bad pain day for you. But you start thinking about it, and you're in your head, you're worrying about, what about that I hope it's not as bad today as it was that time I had to go to the ER, and they couldn't control the pain. And so they start thinking about it, or they have asked, how do you feel about your pain? Not the pain, how do you feel about it? Those things usually, they're each about a third. And the pain almost always, with the exception of some sort of just cancer pain where they're tumors just eating into your spine or something, almost all pain, there's those three parts, and you start addressing how it feels, how much emotional charge is on it when they think about it. You ask, how do you feel about your pain, how it's affected you? Because a lot of times those are conditioned responses.
And the memories of the pain, what happened, and around it,
I want you to go back to that time when your pain was really bad. That time you went to the ER, they couldn't control it. That time you went to the specialist and he told you whatever. That's the other big thing, man. A lot of these times, I know you've had many case reports where the expert said, forget it, you're going to have pain the rest of your life. Yeah. I think the body heals itself. I think almost all pain can be cured. At least 90% of back pain, for example, is not due to the slip disc and the spinal stenosis and the spinal arthritis that we see on an MRI scan. You may have those findings on an MRI scan, as do, they've looked at a middle-aged population and with no pain, and they MRI scan them, and 65% have a slip disc and spinal arthritis and no pain. What usually is causing the pain is the chronic tension, spasm of the muscles. That's almost always a reaction to something going on in your life, past traumas, more recent traumas, and we can impact all that with FasterEFT.
Yeah, definitely. And I think another thing too is understanding the power of the mind to heal itself. We talk, scientifically proven the placebo effect works. It's not the sugar pill. It's what people are doing inside their mind. The nocebo effect. They get the right drug, the right surgery, and they're still not healed. And the reason is they are doing exactly what the placebo effect people are doing, but they're looking at all the negative, recalling all the negative, anticipating the negative. So the mind can heal itself by merely shifting perception and how they represent things.
Yeah. In fact, at my own medical school, which is Baylor back in Houston, they had this study where they did the sham knee arthroscopies. Because there's I think hundreds of thousands of knee arthroscopy surgeries every year for just cartilage problems, and people have knee pain. And I think a half or third of the group, they put them to sleep under anesthesia, they made the incision, no scope went in the knee, nothing was done, and they had as high of a relief of their pain with the sham surgery as they did with the original surgery.
Yeah.
So, the placebo effect is so important.
Which really the placebo effect means the mind can heal itself.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Yeah.
There's the power of the mind to heal.
Yeah. I know Dr. Lisa Rankin's gotten big, and she talks all about that, the power of the placebo, and how much we can heal ourselves. And I think a big part of that just starts with having hope, and what I would say to people, I don't care how many experts have told you this, doctors are very well meaning. It's just they're operating from their model of the world, or as I say, their box, which is usually the allopathic box. And I operate within that box too. It's just I can step from that box to different boxes very easily. But there's a lot of hope for chronic pain, and sometimes that's outside of the allopathic box, and it doesn't mean that you just always have to drug it. I certainly use my share of medication sometimes with patients to calm down the nerve hypersensitivity, but ultimately I want to go in and find out what can we do to help this person's body heal itself.
And another thing about the placebo effect in FasterEFT, FasterEFT steps into the mind, how it creates the healing, how it actually creates the no healing, and we work within the inner workings of the mind, because the placebo effect person, they're taking their sugar pill, and in their mind they're imagining and creating healing. The nocebo effect, in their mind they're creating no healing. So with FasterEFT, we can go into the mind, how they represent. We use the art of change to elicit their strategy, how to heal and how not to heal, and we rewrite the story to where they all can heal. And that's a good thing about FasterEFT. You don't have to believe it works, because we work with your beliefs, how you represent things. And that's where adding this too with your clients and helping make big changes, because you're working with the mind.
Yeah. I mean, even if you're not in a pain practice like me, I mean, 80% of the patients going to a primary care doctor's office have functional medical problems. It means there's real symptoms, but on a lab and physical exam and x-ray, usually you don't find anything wrong. But that's the majority of what these guys see, and it's everything from fatigue to headaches to hypertension to irritable bowel syndrome. And I mean, so many diseases, again, at one level of truth, they're real physiologic processes. We're not saying any of the stuff's in someone's head at all. That's a key distinction, because I mean, I try to never have anyone walk out of the office thinking that I told them, oh,
Right.
you're full of it and the problem's on your head. We're not saying that at all. There's real physical issues and real physiologic shifts. I mean, someone who's multiply chemically sensitive, if they smell one of those things,
It's real.
it's real for them. It's real. So, yeah. So it's really exciting, and I mean, it's so, when I come home at night, what I'm so excited about, I'm not usually telling my wife about my taking out a kidney tumor. I'm telling her about the successes I've had with FasterEFT.
That is pretty
It's awesome.
exciting, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It definitely makes medicine fun again.
I mean, it is exciting. I mean, I work with people and I get emails from people, but being right there and see it happen in front of you.
Yeah, and getting the calls and the letters and yeah,
That's exciting.
yeah. And that's with people who come in not even knowing they're going to get it, man.
And those are usually the best ones.
In some ways, yeah. In some ways, huh?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they don't know what hit them.
Right.
Super Eric hit them.
Yeah, I wish it weren't just Super Eric, though. I wish that we could really get a lot more folks in the medical community involved.
Absolutely.
We're trying to raise that level of consciousness. I think I was sharing with you last night, I've had a couple patients that had pain issues and molestation and PTSD and depression that we just cleared it all. And they actually went back to their psychiatrist and told them the guy cleared it all. And I was surprised the guy wasn't there, waiting in my porch or banging on the door saying, "What the heck did you do, man? Teach me," I mean, if the custodian at our facility was curing, swollen prostates or whatever and doing it better than I would, I'd be waiting at that guy's doorstep saying, "Teach me what's going on,"
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think slowly we're raising the consciousness, and I think economic factors, if nothing else, because third-party payers in this country really know that conventional medicine is not good at treating chronic pain.
Yeah.
It's dismal results with treating chronic pain,
Yeah.
and at some point you have to be willing to look at the model that you're using that says it's a completely physical issue, and be willing to look outside that box and say there are real physiologic mechanisms for it, and at a higher level of truth, it's the emotional, mental stuff, beliefs, thoughts, traumas, stresses that are causing those physiologic things.
And I think that's why now EFT, FasterEFT, and other healing modalities are becoming more sought after, because they've tried the drugs, they tried this, they tried that, and they want something. They want something that works, and they want something that works as fast as they possibly can.
Right. Yeah,
So that's why we're here. That's why we're doing what we do.
that's why we're here. Petting Lexi and talking about this stuff, huh?
Yeah, good job. All right, so we finish up with Jonah.
Okay. So yeah, he was playing very competitive basketball and on a nationally ranked AAU travel team, and just loved it. Basketball was his life, and he started developing a lot of back pain, and I'd say it was more than that, Robert. I mean, he loved basketball. One thing that I learned years ago, I mean, his whole life was basketball, and that's great. It's a great, healthy outlet. One thing I learned is that when you're moving so intensely strongly towards one thing, that a lot of times there's something that you're moving away from even more powerfully. And I think that was true with Jonah, just because he got to a point out on the court that he was putting so much pressure on himself. He loved the game, but he was putting so much pressure, he couldn't go forward and couldn't go back. Started developing a lot of musculoskeletal pain that took him out of the game, and had tried a number of modalities, and really some friends of mine, well-meaning folks and well-trained folks, and it was getting worse, and it was actually getting pretty scary. And he came in one night and saw your video. I bought your home study course, which was great, and I learned a ton from that, and started introducing that in my medical practice. But Jonah walked in one night and saw me watching a video of you, and something clicked for him, and I said I'd like to try it, and we got him 3 Skype sessions with you, and that just just cured my kid, man. I mean, it was just night and day, and yeah, I'd say it kind of gave us all our lives back. So yeah,
that's really.
And
really,
he hadn't looked back since then, you know.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows how he would be today had we not?
Yeah, I don't even like thinking about that.
It's totally changed his life.
Yeah, I remember it did change his life so much, and I wanted to bring him with me to attend your level 1 training in Oklahoma City. We're in Los Angeles, and my wife was Linda was just a little hesitant. You know, it was his senior year, and it would have involved him missing a week of school, and that was one of those things that I just finally insisted on. And I mean, to the day I die, that was one of the best decisions I made, and I'm so glad I stuck with my guns. And it's just been so meaningful for him, man.
Good stuff.
Yep. You gave me my kid's life back, man. Thank you.
Good job.
Thanks, man. And
No.
Bexy.
That's good, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's what it's all about.
it is, man. Yeah. Gave him his life back. But yeah, I mean, to get your kid back, and then to see him excelling like he is now is just.
He loves FasterEFT.
Oh my God, he's doing so good at it.
Yeah, he's good.
And
And it's so rewarding. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he gets energized after these sessions now, and he really loves it. And he just every day is just working on breaking his, like you know, breaking those conditioned patterns. Mm-hmm. He takes the time to also focus on the good, because you have to do that. But he'll notice where he's still stuck, where he's not free, and just tap. He's not getting into the story and adding a bunch of figuring it out and trying to. There's, I guess, a place for that, you know, but that's not where he's at.
And
now.
it's, you know, of course, he comes to stay with me in Oklahoma, and it's not unusual for him to be up in the middle of the night, 2 guys working on him, or he's working on somebody. Because, you know, we have a lot of people come and stay at the house who come to the seminar, and he's always getting tapped on, and he's tapping on somebody else. So it's a passion, you know. So pain.
Yeah.
What would you say for somebody out there that's in pain? What would you tell them?
If you're in pain, I would say that we know your pain's real. That's not the issue. The question is not whether you're having pain. It's just we've got to look at what's causing the pain. We know that at one level it's chronic muscle tension and spasm. We know that there's nerve hypersensitivity. And at a higher level of truth, a lot of times those are due to stressors in our life and past traumas going way back that have sensitized the nervous system, and kind of associations. And then after a while, for those of you who had chronic pain for a while, there's certain beliefs about it. You feel certain ways about your pain, you think about it in certain ways, and all those compound and magnify it. And we can help you with a lot of those factors and get you feeling better.